This video goes over Unit 4's Critical Evaluation Planner Part 2, which is about language and credibility. This is part of the Unit 4 pre-writing for English 101. In this assignment, you're still working with Reading 4 ungrading in this particular semester, but you may be watching this in a future semester and the reading may be different. I will try to make sure that it says directly on the assignment instructions what reading you should be using, but you can always go into the course readings tab on the left-hand side of your navigation screen, and you can review the reading schedule right here, and it'll show you or tell you which reading you should be using. Those readings will also be posted on the course schedule and in the announcement, so there should be plenty of places for you to be able to find them. What you'll do is download this blank Critical Evaluation Planner Part 2. I'm going to use the one with notes that I've created and that I've linked for you so you can see the resources that I'm providing as you go along. The critical evaluation essay, which is the Unit 4 essay, the goal of this entire essay is for you to be evaluating the article for effectiveness. Essentially, how well has the author done at convincing their audience that their claim or argument is correct. This is why we're breaking the argument down into multiple pieces and we're evaluating each piece. The evidence, are there any fallacies? What is the counter argument and does it refute the original argument? In the planner part 2, we focus on the language that the author is using to present their claim because that can really impact whether or not they've done a good job or not. And we're evaluating the credibility of the author and the source itself. So we're going to go through those elements in this planner. It's also worth noting that all of this information is available in your course under Unit 4 Learning Materials subfolder. So you'll find information here about source evaluation and author credibility, how to evaluate the evidence, and so on and so forth. I also want to let you know that there is a resource called Everything You Need to Know About Critical Evaluation that I custom made for you to help you complete this particular essay. There are a lot of elements of evaluation, and I wanted you to have all of the information in one place. So this is kind of like one-stop guide for how to complete this assignment. So Planner Part 2 starts about halfway through the guide. So when we start looking at it, the first part of the worksheet is about language use. It's asking you about writing choices that the author has made, like what kinds of, are they using informal language, are they using very formal language and organization, so on and so forth, and what impact that has. This information can be found here under the language use section of the Everything You Need to Know About Critical Evaluation guide. Writing techniques, formal versus informal, tone, word choice. These are the kinds of things that you'll be answering here in this language use section of the worksheet. So I did link to this guide on the notes document, so you should be able to access that resource here. The tone is also here, and there's a list of tone words. This is just a web page that might be helpful for you while you're talking about tone. The next part of the worksheet is about credibility. Again, this is located in your course under the Unit 4 Learning Materials submodule. It's also on the resource. The idea behind source and author credibility is, first, you need to identify the author's credibility. What is their education? What is their experience? Are they reliable? Do we trust them? Then you're going to look at the source itself. Where was this article published originally, and is that publisher reliable? Is it a trustworthy source? So there's information about credibility on the other resources if you're not sure what you're going to be talking about in this unit. Another big important element of evaluating credibility is worldview and bias. It's important to identify the author's worldview. what is it about their life and experience that impacts the way they view this particular topic? Just to give you an example, in a different semester, I've used an article called How and Why to Be Positive by Travis Bradberry. And while we don't know Travis Bradberry very much, personally, we can learn a few things about him when we do a search. He is educated, he has multiple degrees, he works for a very important research institution, he has lots of journalism background. It's pretty easy to understand that as a wealthy, educated, white male American, that has an impact on how easy it is for him to be positive. So we can see that his worldview comes from those metrics in his life, and they impact the way he feels about the topic. So that's kind of what I want you to be thinking about when you're evaluating reading 4. I want you to think about the author. What do we know about them, and what might that, how might that impact how they feel about this particular topic? I also want you to try and examine bias. Is the author taking a side, and are they ignoring information from the alternate side? It's one thing to have an opinion, but it's another thing entirely if you are taking a one-sided view of a topic and you're ignoring important information on the other side of things. So I want you to think about worldview or bias. There's also information, again, in the course as well as on the document that I've created to help you understand those two elements. The very last part is kind of the overall thesis that you're going to be using to drive your Unit 4 essay. The point of the Unit 4 essay is for you to evaluate, is the original argument effective or not? And you can't make that determination until after you've broken it down and evaluated all the little pieces. So now that we've done that in Planner Part 1 and the earlier parts of Planner Part 2, now we can finally come to the crux of it and try to determine whether the overall argument itself was effective or not. So this is the thesis statement that you're going to be using that's going to drive your whole essay. Now that you've looked at all the pieces and parts, you can make this determination and just realize that even though it's at the very end of your planner, it's going to be at the beginning of your essay. So keep that in mind as you move on to the next part of this assignment. Please know that you can always email me if you have questions, or I'll be happy to talk you through any parts of this assignment that you don't understand.